If you are thinking of buying a condo here in Bremerton or anywhere in Kitsap County, this is the video to watch to the end. Lots of cool stuff about condos, pros and cons, things to look out for, red flags, that sort of thing. We have condos in all makes and models, all sizes and budgets, so be sure to watch to the end. What's up everybody, it's Cassandra Lopez with the Living in Bremerton channel. If you're new to the channel, you're going to want to go ahead and subscribe. This channel is all about living in Bremerton. So whether you are new here for the first time, or maybe you've been here for a while or just want to know more, be sure and subscribe and tap that little bell so you're notified every time I drop a new video, and you can reach out to me directly. This is my cell phone and my email. Feel free to call, text, or email if there's anything I can do to support your relocation to Bremerton, Washington. So condos, what's the jam? Isn't it just like an apartment? Well, like sorta, like functionally living. Yeah, it could be, considered similar to an apartment. Obviously, one of the major differences is with an apartment you're renting and you don't earn equity or, investment opportunities back on your money. A condominium, you own your unit, walls in, so everything exterior of the building, like the siding, the roofing, the sidewalks, those are all common areas. You have community ownership in those structures. And if there's like a gym or a pool, those are included in all of that. So condominiums have monthly dues, and they range anywhere from say $400 a month up to $1,000 a month, depending on a myriad of factors, and we'll kind of get into all of those. Pros of owning a condo are super low maintenance. So you're not going to have any yard maintenance. You're not going to have to clean off a roof. You're not going to have to pressure wash the siding or the sidewalk or anything like that. That's all done by building maintenance. So you don't have to do any of that. Oftentimes, and I would almost be wary to say like all the time, utilities are included in your dues. So for example, I own a condo as a rental unit in the Sunfjord Condominium Association, and my dues are $414 a month, and that includes water, sewer, and garbage. So I don't also have to pay those utilities. Those are paid out of my HOA dues. I also will never have to put on a new roof or reside my house, right? So like the dues go to fund a reserve that will eventually pay for a new roof, and they save up for it in advance, ideally, so that way they're not putting an assessment on the end. We'll get to what that means, but it's fair to say that most condominium associations, your dues are also going to go towards utilities. Some even include basic cable, so that's pretty cool. Many of the newer condominiums, like say the ones down on Washington Avenue in downtown Bremerton, so the 400, the trade winds at the 320 and 360, those all have like secure entries, and they have underground garages that are also gated. So you need a little key fob and stuff to get in. So that's nice to have as part of your lifestyle, is that secure access. Oftentimes, condos are also a lot more affordable for the footage you're getting than buying a house of the same footprint. For example, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo might cost you anywhere from $250 to $350, maybe even $400, maybe even higher, depending on, if it's waterfront, water view, that sort of thing. Those things tend to tick up the price. But for that same house, maybe you're paying like $400, $425, and now you have all this yard maintenance, you got to put on a new roof, like all this stuff. So it kind of weighs out. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but there's dues. Yeah, but you never have to budget for a roof. So, I mean, you just kind of have to weigh your options. Another pro about living in a condo are the amenities. Like oftentimes a condo will have a gym, a common area, like a little clubhouse or whatever that you can reserve for events or barbecues or family stuff, parties and things like birthday parties. There's pools and hot tubs. Some have a theater, so you can go, reserve the theater and watch a movie. Some have a library, some have private beach access. So it really just depends on what you're looking for in a community and what works with your lifestyle, and then we go find one that has all those things. Okay, some cons about living in a condo. So it's like apartment living, so you're probably gonna have at least one shared wall, and it's helpful and I think almost required that you live a very quiet lifestyle. I know many times in the HOA documents, there's going to be laws that restrict, excessive noise or noise after certain hours or that sort of thing, right? So just it's meant for a quiet, peaceful community living. There's also the HOA dues. So we talked about this, right? So there's going to be your monthly mortgage payment if you have a mortgage. If you pay cash for your condo, then obviously you don't have a mortgage, but there's also going to be a monthly assessment. So even if you don't have a mortgage, you're still going to have monthly dues. Now, we talked about a lot of those times, those dues going towards utilities, which means you won't also have a utility bill. Maybe you'll have electricity and you'll have like your internet, right? So those will be your two bills. Everything else is paid out of your HOA. But your dues are going to exceed what those monthly utility bills would have cost. So you just have to think of it like the excess or the difference is going into a savings account, into a reserve fund that's going to ultimately pay for a common area project, like resurfacing the parking lot, or like the new roofing and siding we talked about, or if the gym or the pool needs maintenance. That's where those funds come from. And since buying a condo, you're buying into the association and you're partial owner of these community amenities, that's why the homeowners are charged for maintaining them, if that makes sense. Okay, another con would be an assessment or a future assessment, which is separate from your HOA dues. So your HOA dues are constant, they're there, they're one thing, right? If there is a major project needed, or the county or city code comes over and they like flag something that's not up to code, and they make the condo association bring something up to code, like exterior decks. Say the county or the city sends an inspector over and they call something out that's out of code, and now they require the building, the association community to replace whatever. So say, for example, all the exterior decks are failing and now they're a hazard and people can't walk on them, and so they're going to say, hey, this is a safety issue, you need to replace all of them. Well, there wasn't money in the budget for that, so they're going to go ahead and pay for that project, but then they're going to assess the homeowners for the cost of that, the total cost divided by however many homeowners, to recoup the funds and replenish the reserves, because a condominium can't go on without any reserves. Otherwise, it's just assessment after assessment. Now, what does that mean for you as the homeowner? It means you have your regular HOA dues, but now you have a separate assessment that's going on that is not optional. You can't negotiate it. You have to pay it. If you don't pay it, you get a lien on your property. It's like not good for anybody. So for example, there is a condo locally called the Narrows View condominiums, and their assessments, I think it's up to $700-800 a month. And so that's a lot, and people are trying to sell in there. There's been kind of a big turnover since that happened. People are like, I'm out of here, I don't want to pay that, right? So they're trying to sell, but now they can't sell because a buyer would have to assume that. So they're having to lower the price and lower the price. So now, these condos are listed for under $200,000. They start with a 1, you guys. When was the last time you saw any real estate starting with a 1 that wasn't a total teardown? So, $180,000 for this unit. So your mortgage is super low, but you're paying this assessment for $800, $900 a month for who knows how long it's going to take. I'm sure that the committee, the board has a timeline for that. By this date, it'll be paid off, but who knows? It could be 5 years, it could be 20 years. So that's one thing to look out. And when you're buying a condo, we actually will have the opportunity to review all the financials before you purchase it as part of your due diligence, so you know exactly what you're buying. Another con of living in a condo is some people just don't like the rules and regulations, right? Like, what if I want to hang a plant on my patio, but the regulations say nothing on the patio? There's some condos that are that strict. Others are like, do your thing, put a jungle on your patio. So it really just depends on your preferences and if you can live within, the regulations. And one last con that's maybe more of a restriction than a con is that when you're financing a condo, there may be some financing restrictions on if you're using a VA or an FHA loan, or a USDA. USDA is not they don't do condos, so forget that one anyway. So, but a government-backed loan like FHA and VA, if the association is not registered with those entities, then it's maybe unlikely that you'll be able to buy one. However, I have had success with an FHA buyer and a VA buyer purchasing a unit in an association that was not, and they do what's called a spot appraisal, and the FHA or VA will guarantee the loan for that specific unit versus like the whole entire community, if that makes sense. A condo might be right for you if you want low maintenance, you want a low barrier to entry, i.e. purchase price, you have a very, quiet lifestyle, you're okay with managing the rules and all that stuff. It may not be for you if you need a yard, if you have a pet, if you have kiddos who need space to run, that sort of thing. So that's one thing I didn't touch on yet was pet regulation. So condos will allow pets, but they usually restrict it to 30 pounds or less. Maybe they restrict certain breeds. Maybe they'll restrict the number of pets. You're allowed to have like 2. So if you have a bunch of dogs, condo's not going to work for you. So there's lots of things to consider because it definitely is like 2 kinds of people in this world, those who love condos and those who don't. So, you really have to just kind of consider your needs and weigh them against what a condo can offer you. Like I mentioned, when you're buying a condo, we will have access to all of the financials. So that's the budget, the insurance policy, like the master insurance policy, and the reserve statement. So the reserve statement is going to show you basically how much money's in the bank, right? Like how much money do they have to work with if a project comes up or if they need to repair or replace something. You'll also have an opportunity to view the CC&Rs, which is covenants, conditions, and restrictions. These are the governing documents, if you will, for the HOA, and the rules and regs and bylaws and all that stuff. So it's a lot of reading. It's a lot of like lawyer speak, and they're often 100 or more pages long. So it may be helpful just to upload the document to like ChatGPT and say, hey, give me a summary of this. That might be a way around it, but as long as you have access to it and you have the opportunity to read it, that's what we're looking for. We're going to be looking for any major restrictions against like, pets and plants and flags and that sort of thing. What can you put on your patio? We're going to be looking for if there's any current assessments or future assessments slated to come up, because you don't want to buy a condo and then 6 months later there's this assessment that we should have known about, but we didn't take the time to read the financials. So we want to make sure we dig into all of that. We want to have an opportunity to call the property manager. So oftentimes a condo association will be managed by an entirely separate company called a property manager. For example, the Sunford condos, they have their HOA board. That's a panel of homeowners basically who have been elected to the board. And then the whole property is managed by Seabreeze. So Seabreeze is who I would call if I needed a maintenance request, or that's who I pay my dues to. And they just manage the property in terms of that sort of stuff. So we would want to get in contact with whoever is the POC for this condo just to kind of feel it out and stuff. So we have options to do that. If you're purchasing your condo as an investment, as a rental, you want to make sure that you're allowed to rent. If there's a rental cap that hasn't been met yet, and if they only allow long terms or if they allow mid and short term leases as well, those are all things we need to look into. So how to find a condo. You would find a condo just like you would find anything else. You go to your favorite search engine, you call me, you have me plug in a search for you, and we can get all the information on the monthly dues, any assessments, all that stuff we talked about to see if it might be a good fit for you. And I would encourage you to just drive through the community to see if it's somewhere you even feel like you want to live, because it's got to feel like home, right? So that's condos in a nutshell. If you like that video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, tap that little bell so you're notified every time I drop a new video. Please feel free to call, text, or email me if there's anything I can do to support your relocation to Bremerton, Washington. See you on the channel. Bye for now.